Abaye, every single one of his limbs and his tendons and his body was pure. Abaye was 100% Torah. 100% total absorption in holiness. On top of everything, he was a scholar. On top of everything, he was an orphan. He was a self-made man. Okay, he didn't have a father. There was a rich Rosh Yeshiva and this and that. His uncle helped him along. He quotes his uncle in the Gemara also. But he was brought up by a caretaker. And yet he became Abaye. Abaye, with all his virtues, got a greeting from heaven once a week. And here's this guy that they can imagine, somebody that's got an office downtown. Okay, nobody sees him in the yeshiva. Sees him in shul every Shabbat. Okay. And he gets a greeting every single day. Abaye said, wow, what's going on here? Who is this guy? Abaye, he said, why can't I be like Abba Umna? He asked the heavens when they came. He got it. Erev Shabbat, came the voice from heaven and said, good Shabbos, Abaye, how are you? This, that, everything. You had a fine week? He says, fine. But one thing I want to ask a question. So what do you want to ask a question? I've got to answer from the voice. He says, why can't I be like Abba Umna? The Gemara says, Lo matzitz lemivad ke'uvda. No, you can't do what Abba Umna does. But I says, wait a second. A Torah scholar could do anything. What's it mean? I can't do what the simple doctor does? And then the Gemara explains what Abba Umna does. My Hava Uvde, what was his deed? What did Abba Umna do? Okay. Abba Umna, he had a waiting room. He had a separate waiting room for men and a separate waiting room for women. In other words, the men and the women did not see each other in the waiting room. Okay. When Abba Umna would treat a woman, the Gemara tells us he had this long frock, like a house coat with a hood on it, that a woman covered from head to toe. The woman would say where it hurts. Okay, for example, if she had a pain in her arm, then he would put a tiny hole in the sleeve and inject the needle where he would draw blood. Plus which he would not look at the woman. Okay? Here the Gemara is telling us, and he was a very successful doctor, but a doctor would have every, what we call a heter, a halachic dispensation, to look at a patient. He's got to cure the patient. You know, the doctor, he doesn't have a flirt with the patient. He wants to cure. So the doctor, in the course of his treatment of a patient, a doctor is allowed to look at a patient. Abba Umna, he didn't use his dispensation according to religious law, but he said he didn't trust himself. I'm not going to look at all. He completely covered up the woman. The Torah said to guard his eyes. He guarded his eyes. Despite the fact that he had a dispensation not to guard his eyes. He didn't have to do that. He made a separate waiting room and this long frock. He wouldn't look at his patients. We've got to stop and think. If Abba Umna, why is the Gemara telling us this long story about Abaye and Abba Umna? How Abba Umna, who was a doctor, and not some rabbi, and not some Talmudic scholar, he attained a level higher than Abaye and Rova. Where Rova once a year, he got his bat kol, he got his voice from heaven, and Abaye once a week, and Abba Umna every single day. It all started with guarding the eyes. And the Gemara is telling us that if Abba Umna can do it, any one of us can do it. Any single one of us can do it. Guarding one's eyes, this invokes the best blessing in the world.
Thank you for listening to the Guard Your Eyes Daily Chizuk broadcast. Pass them on to your friends and help spread Kedusha in the world.